Hello, and welcome back to In the Know, the program that explores hot topics and local issues so that you'll be in the know. I'm your host, Mike Kasperzak, and I'm here today with Steve Rasmussen, the owner of the Milk Pail, and his daughters, Erica and Kai Rasmussen. Now, we're live on tape here at the Milk Pail today, so we're open for business. People may be walking through the set. Don't be alarmed, but we wanted to give everybody a chance to be here and get their last shots at the Milk Pail. Now, Steve, before we really begin, I have to say I'm a little disappointed. You usually have a nice little plate of cheeses for your guests.
Mike, I do have cheeses. I have two groups of cheeses for you, perhaps. If you serve me some easy questions, I'm going to give you some really delicious cheeses. If those questions aren't so easy,
All right.
I've got some really old Limburger for you.
Perfect. Super. So, Steve, let's just start off with the big question that everybody's wondering about is, you survived all of the hearing and the public input about starting the Merlot Phase 2. You made it through. Great victory for the Milk Pail. You got a parking lot. And now you've announced that the Milk Pail is going to be closing. What happened in the last couple of years?
So what happened is when we were striving so hard to stay in the game, to stay in business, we were at the city council meetings for probably 4 years. And in 2016, when construction next to us began, our parking in the large parking lot went to the corner. And we're very grateful in many ways that 31 space parking became available to us. But the parking that we had previously was 100, 110, 120 spaces. So our business, in the first month or two, we would have lines of cars waiting to get into the corner, and people were experiencing fatigue. They just had to battle it too hard. So our customer count during construction went down significantly. And the important thing to note is that in October of 2018, when the construction came to an end, the fences around us also came down, but our customer count since then did not bounce back up like we were expecting. There's been a pretty significant shift, we would say, about the use of this area. This area is no longer Sears and no longer Ross. Now it's a cinema, and it's a Facebook office with what will be someday 2,000 people.
Hi, Erica. I mean, you guys have really been here, boots on the ground during the whole process. Maybe do you guys have anything to add to that in terms of your experiences during the construction phases?
I started at the Milk Pail in, when was it? Fall 2014. So at that time, none of this development around us had started. I think the plans were in the works, but the construction physically hadn't started. So I was there at the very beginning when there was, tons of construction workers next door building the underground parking lot. In which, involved tons of...
That was a big hole.
Massive labor involved. So in those in the early days that I started managing the store, it was still a vibrant, very vibrant, very populated store with customers who had known us and shopped with us for many years because of all the parking we had, because of the accessibility to the business. But as construction started and our parking got slowly encroached upon by construction, I think customers over the last 3 years have gradually dwindled. So I've seen the construction side of things, and I don't know if Erica...
Yeah. I mean, and to add on to that, I think once road construction began, it really threw a wrench in everything. So when our sidewalk was torn up for 6 months, it really created a barrier because it was hard to get not only from San Antonio to California Street because half of the road was coned off. But also it was hard to walk from our parking lot to our front door just because we no longer had a sidewalk. They had to push our customers into the street. It was really admirable to see our customers fighting that. But I think we lost a lot of people because they just got tired. They didn't feel safe. There are a whole bunch of issues surrounding that construction.
And I just noticed today, coming in here, coming down California, I couldn't make a U-turn at San Antonio. It was like, what idiot designed this? Might have been me. So it was like, oh my God, I can't get to the Milk Pail unless I go all the way around the shopping center. That's like, darn. That's now I know all of you guys have been looking at a little bit of the future. Facebookers coming into the 2 office buildings, and I know, Steve, we had talked about maybe doing produce bags for Facebookers or sandwiches as part of the no on-site cafeteria in the Facebook buildings. And that seemed like it might be an opportunity for the Milk Pail. What kind of happened with that, if you care to comment? And the girls might know more about that.
But I'm going to begin.
Okay.
Right. And I also want to be clear that, Mike, that was generous of you to suggest that U-turn that we don't have anymore might have been your doing. But I do, for the record, I want it to be known that Mike was one of the council members that fought for the continuation of our existence. So we appreciate that. But in spite of that, you still might get that Limburger cheese. So Erica and I went into the Facebook facility a couple of weeks ago. They were nice enough to order 2 very large trays of cheese. And they invited us to come in and say a little bit of a few words about the store. And when I had that chance, I asked the 40 people who were in the particular department that we were serving, how many of them had been to this store 3 or more times. And the number of hands that went up, it was 3. So we didn't know a couple of years ago what kind of long-term participation might we get from the occupants of that Facebook building. And but it certainly hasn't been too robust. And that's okay, because some of the staff there, they live in San Francisco, they shop in San Francisco, they shop in San Jose. So, but we didn't get that corporate staff support immediately.
Right. We did a survey on the KMVT's Polko website, and we got a lot of results. We had over 150 people respond to the survey, and it's interesting. 66% of the people have been shopping here 10 years or longer, which I thought was actually pretty amazing. 17%, 5 to 10 years, 13%, 2 to 4 years, and 1% had been only coming here for a year. So you've got a really dedicated group of customers over the years, which isn't surprising, seeing sort of a lot of the comments that were on the website.
Right. So just a few minutes ago, before the camera started rolling, a fellow named Steve, who had been coming in here for 35 years, his mother had been here since I opened 45 years ago.
Oh my God.
And that's really typical. Bless his heart that his mother's still alive. But we have quite a dedicated population of longtime Mountain View, Los Altos, Palo Alto residents.
And how far up or down the peninsula does the Milk Pail reach, do you think?
I think Carmel to Marin.
Seriously?
Seriously.
All right.
So people in Carmel who used to live here, they come up to see their friends, and they make the Milk Pail a stop. This is where they come for cheese. This is where they come for hard-to-find items. This is where they stop for croissants. One year, a few years ago, we did a huge promotion for raclette cheese on Facebook, and my targeted audience was Marin County, Walnut Creek, Half Moon Bay, and Carmel. And the reason for that is raclette users, typically Swiss and German, by featuring raclette, we ended up getting people coming up Highway 101, stopping here, either on the way to their relative's house or on the way back home. It was dramatic. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Now, as we've talked a little bit, you've also talked about sort of the pressures of being a sort of a small business. You're not a small businessman, but it's a small business in the scheme of things in Silicon Valley. Any thoughts or comments on what it's like to be a small business proprietor in this day and age in Silicon Valley?
Yeah, but Mike, first I want a clarification. What do you mean I'm not a small businessman?
You're a man of stature, Steve.
And even now I'm sitting here, looming over you. I don't know what that means.
I'm sitting on a box of honey to give me a little added lift. I will note that it's not my honey, but
so we all know that we all assume that running a small business isn't easy. But sometimes over the years, I hear that wouldn't it be better to have something, wouldn't it be better to work for a bigger company where it's more stable, like Sears or General Motors? Or Pan Am, yeah. So one of the things that I was told recently that I think is apropos is it's pretty easy to go into business. And a long time ago, 45 years ago, this business, when it was called a different name, was bankrupt. And so I was 23, the same age as my daughter Erica is today. And this friend of mine who I was telling that story to said, the interesting thing about a business, it's there's only 3 ways to get out. You go broke, you die, which I haven't done, or you sell it. And we have had, our family, I would say, and I have had a lot of fun for many, many years running this small business. But clearly running a small business is getting harder. Staffing is getting much harder to find. So anytime you read about that, it's much worse than it appears. Regulations are getting worse. The cost of many things for any business, but especially a small business with small volume, it's tough, really tough. But the people in our community who really love the Milk Pail, they love us because we are small and because they believe that we're authentic and they like being part of our cult following.
Kai, you and I were talking a little bit earlier about when you first came in managing the store and getting up at the crack of dawn or earlier to get to the produce market. Can you, talk a little bit about that? Because I don't think people know what it takes to run a store like this.
Right. Yeah, so the way that we get our produce is that we don't just order, through an order form and then have someone just drop it all off at our doorstep. We actually have someone who does the buying, who goes to the South San Francisco produce market, and it opens from midnight to 8 o'clock in the morning. So the time to be there really is, 1 or 2 a.m. so you can get the best deals. Mm-hmm. So in our history of selling produce, there's always been a produce buyer who's doing that job. So when my uncle James passed away in September of 2014, we had a produce person step up to take over that role. And when he left, I took over the buying for about 4 or 5 months. So I got to experience very firsthand the South San Francisco produce terminal. And I was going there many times a week to do the produce buying. And it's a very different world from, I think, most young people's experiences here in Silicon Valley, where they're behind a computer screen, doing whatever they do behind their phone. But being in the real world of produce buying and selling is it's pretty different. And I really enjoyed that experience. It's very much a male-dominated world. But I think there's a thrill in getting deals, and I think our customers also experience the same thrill because we are able to pass on the deal from what we buy at the market to what we sell at the store.
Well, and good prices was like the third most important thing of your customers. That's the things they liked about the Milk Pail was the prices of the produce. So, yeah.
And it's the prices, but it's also the unique items that we're able to buy, both from our farmers who come directly to us, and because we have such a diverse group of customers, so we can have products that Koreans and the Japanese and the Russians and the Filipinos they have to go to specialty markets, or they can sometimes pick it up here, and that makes for a very attractive opportunity for them.
Yeah, in fact, on the one of the questions was the most people liked the cheese selection. 51%, that's what they're going to miss most. Next was a tie between the produce selection, and I think we were talking about there are more names of apples here than I have ever seen. There might be an apple for every letter of the alphabet. But the other thing was the European style market, that people really liked that, sort of that whole eclectic collection of products that you serve.
One of the remarkable things is both of my daughters, unlike me, have incredible abilities at pronouncing very difficult words to say. And Kai and Erica, do you have any items that come to mind that our customers like?
I'm not very good at pronouncing things, but we have a huge amount of European products and also a huge base of European customers. The other day when I was sort of surveying customers, asking them what they'll miss most about the store, I think every single person I just randomly asked came originally from a European country, whether it was the Czech Republic, Russia, France, Belgium. Literally every single person just picked from random. So in the communities that I've gotten to know outside of the store, whether through different colleges around here and grad student communities and things like that, a lot of those people are from other places around the world. They come to Mountain View for a short time, and they always hear about the store from their friends, especially if you're in the French community or if you're in the German community or Russian community. So it's sort of a go-to place for people, the Milk Pail.
And to go off of that, I've had a lot of customers come to me and say, what I'm going to miss most is that the Milk Pail feels like home. It feels like Israel. It feels like France. It feels like all of these places that they were once familiar with. And when they moved here, they thought they'd never find again. And so when they found the Milk Pail, it was just a sense of relief for them because they were like, wow, so this is my home. I feel comfortable. And so it's sad for the community. I think it's a big loss for the community.
Well, that brings up the point. I have an idea what Steve might do, but you guys are both young, early in your careers. The two of us are at the twilight of ours. What are you guys planning on doing, once the day comes?
Well, I took some time off college to come back and work for the family business. I went to one school, left, and then transferred a couple years ago to Berkeley. So I still have that to go back to, although I am considering my options going forward with, possible involvement in a future iteration of the Milk Pail, whether through online, more of an online presence or a pop-up type concept. So hopefully I could somehow, my hope is to take my education and my interest in business and my experience in the family store and sort of combine those things.
Erica, any?
I'm not totally sure. I think time will tell. I've really enjoyed working at the Milk Pail and having this experience running a business. So who knows? Maybe Kai and I will work together and start a whole new chain of stores. You know, who knows what'll happen?
There is a piece of property right over there underneath the icon that was built to be a farmer's market type store, and as far as I know, there's no tenant there yet. So maybe there's an opportunity. Now, you guys still have the name, the Milk Pail, I assume. You haven't sold the goodwill or
That's right.
the name.
Right. We have the brand is really important to us. Lots of our customers remind us of that, and so the goodwill stays with us. And so the opportunity to move this business to a location, ideally that would already be fitted out with the super expensive refrigeration that costs so much to install, that would be ideal. But the reality is that in this area in the last 5 or 6 years, as we were looking for places to relocate to on our own nickel, properties that would handle sufficient parking and space for a building, they have now tripled in price in 6 years. So we as a banana salesperson, we've been kicked out of the business, so to speak. Parking. So that's key each time.
Well, maybe people have heard it here first, is maybe the nail on the coffin isn't driven all the way in. There may be a Phoenix version of the Milk Pail someday. People can hope.
People can hope.
All right. So, one of the other questions we did on the survey was asking people if the city should have done more to, save the Milk Pail or whatever. And maybe a little surprisingly, 88% of the people said the city should have done more to save the Milk Pail. 12% said no. And the comments, we had 150 comments on there. People can see them on the website. But people were angry with the city to a great degree for not doing more for the Milk Pail. I was curious what you thought about some of those comments, Steve or Kai and Erica.
So I think I started off today, and I wanted to be sure that I acknowledged that the parking that we did get was the direct result of the city listening to the community they were very vocal wanting us to stay. I know that it's easy to sort of cast aspersions at the city when the small independent business operator goes by the wayside, and the forces of economics are pretty darn powerful. The reality is that the city chose to make a huge change to the San Antonio Shopping Center, and the fact that we were given a chance to prevail was dramatic, and I think we owe something to the city for that.
There's going to be a new major housing development right across California. Prometheus is building about 700 units on the other side of San Antonio. Might all of those tenants have made a difference, or was just the timing the way it is?
So some of the parking that we enjoy is across the street, which is going to go away.
Right.
There is, if you remember some of those comments that you read on that survey, this area is getting extremely congested, and it's not easy to get to us. Somebody earlier today, I recall hearing they observed that there's a U-turn that was taken away. So a U-turn here, a left turn there. things happen. So I'm not sure we could have survived for that 700 unit apartment complex across the street. We have no idea what kind of disruption will occur on that street. We know what disruption happened in front of us, and it was very tough. And then there's the whole other question of, will the occupants of that 550 unit apartment and the 700 unit apartment, do they cook?
Or do they eat out?
Yeah.
So we're getting close to a wrap here, but do you guys have a firm closing date? I mean, for people watching, saying, "Boy, I got to get in. I got to get all my European style goods," and of course, you can't keep vegetables forever or fruit forever. But if people are saying they want to get in here, when do they need to get in here by?
We're expecting to, as you say, do a wrap at the end of June.
The end of June, okay.
Oh.
The end of June is probably the last day for the store.
Any sort of final comments by any of you, like keeping it short? This is now like a political thing, like a 10-word wrap up. Anything you guys want to say? Because I will say on behalf of the community, having the Milk Pail has been great. Steve kind of busts my chops for not being a dedicated shopper, but I get in here once in a while, so.
And again, the amount of business we enjoy today is significantly less than it used to be because people are coming less frequently. It's not like we've lost our friends. We just see them less often. And it's a little bit like this business is a little bit like a flower. If you don't water it, it might wilt. And so if your customers don't patronize you, it might wilt.
All right. Well, I think with that, I'd like to thank you all for joining us today. I'd like to thank Steve Rasmussen and his daughters Erica and Kai for being here. And I'd like to encourage all of you, come on down to the Milk Pail. It's going to be open to the end of June. And this may be one of the last great European style markets in the Bay Area. And we hope to see you at the next time on In the Know.